Hey there, this is Jacques from Heroes and Legends, and welcome to the second video of the day for Kaladesh Reveals. This one's going to focus on inventions. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, you may want to check out the video I posted a couple hours ago. There's been some huge reveals today, one of which, of course, Mark Rosewater came out and said that there would be a subset of cards, much like Expeditions from Battle for Zendikar block, in the Kaladesh block, and they're going to be known as inventions. And not only that, but going forward, all standard releases are going to have subsets very similar, and they're all collectively going to be known as masterpieces. So expeditions are masterpieces, inventions are masterpieces, whatever they come up with in the future will also fall under that category. So this is some really exciting stuff. Now, much like Battle for Zendikar, there are 5 cards from Kaladesh that will also see a printing as an invention, and we'll look at those in just a second. But everything else is going to be reprints from basically the history of Magic. These will all be artifacts in the way that the expeditions were all lands. So very similar concept as far as all the rules go. We talked about this in detail in the previous video, but they're all the same as expeditions. So for example, if you open one of these in a sealed event or a draft event, you can play with it, but you can only play these cards in constructed formats where they are already legal. So I think that's important to note. But for more detail, either check out our previous video or else you can check out Mark Rosewater's article that was in the Daily MTG today on the Mothership website. So having said that, real quick before we get started, if you haven't checked it out yet, in the description below we have a link to our Amazon affiliate store. There's a whole bunch of links to the Magic products there, but if you go through any of those links and make any purchases, even if it's a different product, a small percentage will come back to help support the channel. So thank you in advance for looking at that. I really appreciate all the support I've already gotten from those links, and as always, thank you to the patrons on Patreon that make these videos possible. Having said that, let's get into the cards. Now, before we get into the inventions, I do have one regular Kaladesh card to look at, so let's look at that quickly, and it is Eliminate the Competition. I love that name. 1 black and 4. It's a rare sorcery. As an additional cost to cast this, sacrifice X creatures, destroy X target creatures. So real quick evaluation, I think this is mostly a limited card. It would be very good in a limited build if you were going wide. You had maybe a lot of tokens. Works really well with, say, a bunch of Fabricate cards, right? If you have a whole bunch of Servo tokens to toss away, you can pretty much clear out your opponent's board for 5 mana. That could be quite powerful. As far as constructed formats go, standard for example, this is okay removal, but the only problem is I think there's just better removal right now. This is sorcery speed. It costs 5. It also makes you sacrifice a creature to get the effect. Granted, it would seem powerful if you had a bunch of creatures to sacrifice, but at the same time, you don't know that your opponent's going to have more than one creature coming at you that you're concerned about. A lot of decks will just be hitting you with, say, an Emrakul or something, where you just don't need something like this. And secondly, you could draw this early in the game when it's a dead card. Either I don't have the mana to cast it, or I just don't have any creatures to sacrifice to it. I think that level of variance and the fact that there's a lot of really good removal out there right now means that this will be relegated to a limited role, but that's okay. I think it could be good in some builds. Not always going to make your build unlimited. Again, you really want to have that strategy to know you're going to have some creatures to sacrifice to it, but as long as you're fairly confident, you'll at least have some small creatures on the board that you can exchange for maybe something better on your opponent's side, then it might be worth running. Now, having said that, let's get into what you have all come here to see. And these are the inventions. So these 4 we saw earlier today, and we talked about these in the previous video, so I won't go into too much detail, but we saw Gauntlet of Power, Hangerback Walker, Mana Crypt, and Verdurous Gearhulk. So of course the Gearhulk cycle is all here, so let's take a look at it. Here's the white one, Cataclysmic Gearhulk. And what's interesting is with Battle for Zendikar, I think a lot of times when somebody did get an expedition and it was one of the Battle for Zendikar rare lands, it felt a little disappointing, right? Even though it was still an expedition, it was still awesome, but at the same time you kind of wish you got a fetch land or a shock land or something like that, right? This time I think you're going to be happy to get a Gearhulk just because these cards are so pushed. Like this card and all of them, they're going to see a lot of playing cubes, commander. They're going to show up all over the place. They're definitely standard playable. Some of these are probably modern playable as well. So I do think there will be still a lot of excitement, even though it is a brand new card in the Kaladesh set. I think it will still feel pretty good to open one of these. Also, considering the art is incredible. One thing you'll notice in the art and also the flavor text of these inventions is it really makes you feel like you're at the Inventors Fair. Like this is supposed to be a series of inventions that are at the fair that's being showcased in the art. You see people like looking at the inventions. It's pretty awesome. So this, of course, is the first or the second Gear Hulk, I should say. Here's the third Torrential Gear Hulk. I like how he's shooting water like over the crowd. That's awesome. Here's Noxious Gear Hulk. And finally, the last one, which we actually learned about today, Combustible Gear Hulk. Those all look so good. Alright, let's move on to the reprints from the history of Magic. We're going to start off with Aether Vial. Why not, right? Why not a huge $50 card to start off with? Aether Vial, of course, he's playing Moderns, he's playing Legacy, and even Vintage sometimes. This card is the real deal whenever you're trying to sneak out cheap creatures fast, whether they be merfolk or elves or slivers or what have you. This is one way to do it. Very popular card, beautiful art. Champion's Helm. This one's kind of interesting just because it was only printed one time and it was in the first series of Commander decks. And that's it. So it's never had a foil printing or anything like that. Obviously, this is new art. But that's the only time this card saw printing. It's like a $10 card. It does see play in Commander. Chromatic Lantern. This one's a little bit newer from Return to Ravnica, but still a very good card. Has a lot of uses, and again, I probably don't need to say this every time, but I'm just so blown away by the art. They really knocked it out of the park. Chrome Mox. Here's another heavy hitter. Now, Chrome Mox is maybe not quite as popular as Mox Diamond or Mox Opal is. Of course, Mox Diamond, unfortunately, is on the reserve list. But Chrome Mox is still a good card. Still sees play, in Legacy especially. It does show up Storm decks, for example, stuff like that. Again, it looks amazing. It's nice to see it back. We just saw it in Eternal Masters, but here it is, just an alternate version of it. Cloudstone Curio. This card maybe financially isn't a huge heavy hitter, but it is a card that does have its fan base for sure. Crucible of Worlds. Now, here's a big one. This one, I mean, whether you're trying to get an original copy or a 10th edition copy, is going to run you like $60. If you're trying to get a foil, forget about it. It's probably going to be over $100 at this point. So this is a real nice inclusion if you're lucky enough to open one of these. All of the art, like I've been saying, looks amazing. This one, I can imagine, looks spectacular in foil too. Lightning Greaves. This one originally was an uncommon for Mirrodin. Again, financially, probably not one of the biggest cards here, but I still think it's pretty cool to see Commander play and such. It's been reprinted a number of times. It's shown up in Commander decks a few times at this point, but even with all the printings, it's still like a $4 or $5 card. So that lets you know people are looking for this card and want to play it. So if you want to trick out your Commander deck, I mean, this is a nice way to do it. Lotus Petal just looks incredible. This is probably my favorite out of all the new pieces of art. Just kind of the close-up on the Lotus, looking at the petal, is just amazing to me. Fantastic card. Originally, this was a common, was printed back in Tempest. It did see a foil reprint in From the Vault, but not a whole lot of places to get Lotus Petal, so this is pretty cool. Mana Vault. This hasn't been reprinted in a long time, and normally I like older art better, and I actually do really like the old art of Mana Vault, but this really looks like a vault, so that's kind of cool. I never was really sure what the art on Mana Vault was supposed to be exactly. This is a great card. It's extremely powerful, and it's an awesome cube card. You see this in a lot of cubes, especially power cubes. Vintage cubes will want to run something like this, and it's just kind of nice to see this card back finally. Mind's Eye. Here's another one that hasn't had a whole lot of printings. It was in Mirrodin, and then it did get a reprinting in Commander's Arsenal, and that's it. So again, it's another kind of expensive Commander card, so it's kind of neat to see here. Mox Opal. Well, here's the Mox Opal, and we saw this in Modern Masters 2015, but it's still like a $30, $35 card. It sees play in the Modern Affinity deck, so of course that's going to kind of run the price up a little bit. But again, it's a Mox, and it's really nice to see both Chrome Mox and this one in the set. Sad that we can't get Mox Diamond, but nevertheless, we got Mox Opal. Painter's Servant. One of my favorite cards. This has never been reprinted. It was from Shadowmoor. This has seen a lot of play in Legacy in the Painter's Servant Grindstone deck. I've seen some cubes run this card too, so this is one of those cards that it doesn't have a whole lot of homes, but the decks that it's in are popular enough that players really get attached to this card. The Painter's Servant Grindstone deck, for example, is probably the only really strong deck that runs this. However, it did see a little price bump a few months back when it was being sideboarded into some decks to try to deal with the Eldrazi Menace. And it never really came down off that price bump. It's still hanging around like the $15 to $20 mark. Rings of Bright Hearth, card from Lorwyn. Lorwyn cards sometimes run a little rarer than some other sets. Lorwyn Shadowmoor was out during a time when the game was down a little bit and there weren't as many packs being opened. So it's always nice to see reprints from those sets, and this is a very popular one. Scroll Rack, another really old card. This one was from Tempest originally. It's seen a few reprints. Again, financially not a huge card compared to some of the others here, but this card's still running like $8, $10. And the fact that it's a big cube card, it's kind of nice to be able to get a tricked out version of it. Sculpting Steel, another fan favorite card. This sees play in a lot of different places. And again, this is another Mirrodin card, obviously. As you can expect, there's a lot of cards from Mirrodin and Mirrodin block in here, which is logical considering the artifact theme. Sol Ring, here's another huge one. Sol Ring's a funny card because, I mean, originally it was printed in Alpha Beta Unlimited, one of the original Magic cards. Saw reprinting also in Revised, but Wizards kind of figured out relatively quickly how powerful this card is. I would say that this is almost, if not as powerful as Power 9 cards. If I'm playing a Vintage Cube, for example, I would first pick this over Black Lotus or any of the Power 9. It's just that good in limited formats. This card just crushes it. Now, it's seen a lot of printings in recent years because they try to include it very frequently in the Commander products, and that's good because Commander players really want to get their hands on this card, and if they didn't do that, I'd hate to see what the card would actually cost. But even with all those reprintings, the Commander Sol Rings are still like $4, $5, $6, and they've been reprinted into like oblivion, so it just tells you how good this card is. I love the art, how they kind of use the original kind of ring. It's almost like a cross between the Commander art and the original art. You see the ring from the Commander art, but it's got the glow around it from like the original art. Really fantastic job. Whoever did this, I think, really paid homage well to this very old classic card. So this one I'm very excited about. Looks amazing. Solemn Simulacrum. Again, financially not a huge card because it has seen a number of reprints over the years, but it does see tons of play in a lot of different formats. It's kind of known as Sad Robot, and now we have a new Sad Robot to look at, and he looks very sad. So again, they did a great job with this card. Static Orb. I always thought this was trying to be the fixed Winter Orb, but again, another really striking card. Steel Overseer. This is another card that's gotten expensive, and it's mostly because it sees play in Modern Affinity, which of course is a very popular deck, but this was originally one of the core sets a few years back, and then it did see a reprinting in a dual deck, the Elspeth versus Tezzeret dual deck, if I remember correctly, and even so, both versions of those cards are like $12, $15, so this is a cool reprint. Again, if you want to trick out your deck, it's a nice way to do it. Now we're going to look at some swords. Here's Sword of Feast and Famine from Mirrodin Besieged. Really like what they did playing up the protection from green and protection from black angle in the art. Maybe the most powerful sword, most popular one, Sword of Fire and Ice. This thing sees play everywhere, Legacy, Modern, all over the place. It was originally in Dark Steel, and then it did see a reprint in the first Modern Masters, but this is still running $50, $60, and forget about it if you want a foil. It's probably closer to $100 at this point, so really cool inclusion. And our last card of the day, Sword of Light and Shadow. Same story as Fire and Ice. It was from Dark Steel. It did see a reprint in that first Modern Masters. Now this doesn't see quite as much play as Fire and Ice, but still a $35 card. Still running some popular decks like Death and Taxes. Still an excellent inclusion. So I'm assuming we're going to see the last two swords in the cycle in Aether Revolts, since we saw 3 of them here. And it'll be interesting to kind of speculate what else we're going to see in Aether Revolt. So having said that, those are the cards for today. What a huge day. Who would have thought this morning that we would be seeing all of this and basically getting expedition style cards for Kaladesh. I felt like we saw so much in the first week. I wasn't sure what they were really going to show us this week, but this was a huge day of reveals. And I'm a little surprised they saved this for the second week and didn't want to show some of this stuff off in packs, but they had some strong showings in packs, so I guess this worked out just fine. So until tomorrow, we'll get some more previews, we'll have another video, but until then, thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and have a great day. Hey, thanks as always for watching. This video, like all my videos, was made possible by the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Even a donation of $1 helps me to keep growing this community and creating better quality content for all of you. Check out our Patreon page for exclusive giveaways and future goals for the channel. If you haven't yet had a chance to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the MTG news, spoilers, set reviews, product openings, or finance videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a great day.